Something that always makes me chuckle is that there are feminists, there are old school feminists, older feminists, more traditional type feminists, for lack of a better word, who are pushing back against this trans agenda. And those feminists come in all types of ideologies, really. There are feminists who would call themselves conservative, and obviously there are feminists who would call themselves Democrat. There is a coalition of women who call themselves feminists and would think that that's a good thing, who are pushing back against this idea, this allowance for men who identify as women to go into women's spaces, to go into women's restrooms, to go into women's sports teams, to take women's jobs, women's awards, etc. And it makes me chuckle because none of this would have been possible without feminism. Really, we would not be at a point today where it is even remotely acceptable, let alone celebrated, for a man to put on a dress or demand to be called she, her, or to go and be on a women's sports team, or to become the first woman to do anything, to get a woman's award, woman of the year, whatever. We would not be in this society where it is even remotely acceptable for that to happen, let alone celebrated and encouraged, if it were not for the feminists. Because for decades now, feminism, really for at least 100 years, excuse me, more than decades, feminism has been selling the lie that men and women are equal. They're not. And I'm not saying that one is better than, but there is a hierarchy, and that hierarchy comes from God. I know a lot of people are not believers. It comes from nature. Hierarchies exist. And there is a hierarchy when it comes to men and women, when it comes to a family unit, when it comes to a marriage. There is a hierarchy. I'm not saying one is better than the other. There's power in submitting to a good leader. But men and women aren't equal. And men and women are not the same. And feminists have spent at least 100 years selling the lie that women are basically tiny, less hairy men. That is really what's happened, that a woman can and should do everything a man can do. Selling that lie. And at first it was, we just want women to have the right to be able to do anything a man can do. And now it is, no, women can do anything men can do and should do everything men do. And it is not good for women, and it is not good for men. It is not good for anyone. Women, quite literally, do not have the ability to do everything men do, nor do men have the ability to do everything women can do. And I think we all, for the most part, other than the leftists, understand that. But feminism and feminists have spent almost 100 years selling the lie that they can. And so we got to a place where nobody knows what a woman is. And hear me, because I don't just mean that people can't say that a woman is an adult human female, because a lot of us can, okay? Other than the real woke people. I get that. Most of us have that computation happening in our brains. But even a lot of conservatives, even some Christians, Republican voters, would not be able to express to you what a woman is unique from a man, beyond the physical. What a woman's role is in a society, in a home, in a marriage, what a woman's role is in tandem to a man, unique from a man. There are a lot of traditional people, conservative people, who would not be able to articulate that to you. Because in our society, for decades upon decades, for 100 years, we have been pushing to erode that line between men and women, to blur that line between men and women, to make men and women basically the same. And this is the result. Nobody knows what a woman is. Nobody really knows what it means to be a man. And so if you don't know what a woman is, if you don't know what it means to be a man, if you really do believe that women can and should do everything men can do, then the natural progression of that thought is that actually, yeah, a man can feel like a woman. Actually, yeah, a man can be a woman. Actually, yeah, someone could be born into the wrong body, because we're really all the same. We're really all equal. We're really all just exactly the same spirit, exactly the same soul, just thrown randomly into different meat suits. And so, you know what? Maybe there was a mix-up at the factory, at the plant with you. We're really all just the same. Women are basically just tinier, less hairy men. So yeah, of course a man can feel like a woman. Of course a woman can feel like a man. Of course someone can be born into the wrong body. Of course it's not a big deal for a man to walk into a women's restroom or to be on a women's sports team. Of course it's fine, because we have spent 100 years or more telling everyone that men and women are basically the same. So of course we're going to get to a place where we believe that men and women are basically the same. There really is no difference. We have the same soul, the same spirit, just thrown randomly into different meat suits. And so maybe you got into the wrong meat suit. And of course you understand what it's like to be a woman, even though you're a man. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand that feminism and feminists, and hear me, because feminism is the responsibility of both men and women from its inception. Feminism has been propped up by men. It would not be possible without men, so I'm not putting any blame on anyone. But feminism and feminists have been taking over men's spaces for decades, have been shoving their way into men's jobs, into men's spaces, into men's awards, into men's everything for decades under the guise of equal rights. And now we live in a society where men are doing the same to women, and they're not cognitively doing it to get back at them. I mean, these are men who have, a delusion, who are under the influence of indoctrination of a false ideology, just like feminists. Feminists are also under the indoctrination of a false ideology. So I'm not saying it's a conscious thing that, suddenly they're coming to get back at us for feminism. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we have allowed it to happen. We have gotten to this crazy point, this clown world, because of 100 years of feminism, where the line between man and woman has been constantly eroded, constantly blurred, and we raise our daughters, we raise our sons, we raise our children to believe that men and women are perfectly equal and that a man can do everything a woman can do, and now we live in a world where men can get pregnant, and that a woman can do everything a man can do. This is the natural result. And it doesn't bring me any joy. But I hope that women who would still call themselves feminists understand what they are supporting. Because feminism is a false ideology. Feminism degrades women. Feminism erodes what it means to be a woman. And you can see that in what I've just discussed here. You can also see it in the fact that what amounts for the women's rights movement in 2024 is basically the right to end the life of your own offspring. There's literally almost nothing else that women are fighting for. That is the pinnacle of women's rights. That is the constant, never-ending battle. And women, you would think, especially when we're talking about their rights, when we're talking about a women's movement, you would think that women would demand more, that women would demand better than the right, the ability to end the life of their own offspring in a painful way, in a physically risky way, in an emotionally painful way. You would think that women would want better than that, but they don't. From its inception, feminism has been a false ideology propped up by men and women who turned their back on God. And the natural output of adhering to a false ideology for 100 years or more is the clown world that we see around us now. And it's a world where no one knows what a woman is. And I don't just mean biologically. And it's a world where womanhood has been degraded, where women are taught to be like men, succeed like men, have physical intimacy like men, treat their menstruation, their cycles, their ability to conceive, to make life as some kind of scourge. This is the natural output. Of course, we have men who think they're women trying to go into women's restrooms. Of course. It couldn't have happened any other way.